weekend racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
I love when that finally happened to us. What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show. Boy, I was so excited about something I completly forgot. Hey, we've got a show going. I should probably get in there.
At some point, right?
How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm great, man. I'm excited. I'm full of energy. 10 a.m. is usually when I'm firing my best anyway, so this is going to be a fun show. And we're talking Malibu Day, opening day, December 26th. I'm so excited. This is one of my favorite race days of the year.
Yeah, man, this is your world. We're just living in it. And they brought it with this card, too. I commented on Twitter when I was handicapping this earlier this morning. This thing is loaded. You get a lot of Chad Brown invaders in this pick 5 sequence we're going to talk about coming in and running on the turf, but also on the dirt. You've got Velasquez in, you've got Rosario in, who's going to be here all winter. I mean, it's a big time card that we're seeing on Saturday for Santa Anita opening day.
I mean, the stars are out. We've got 3 grade 1s, a grade 2. It's not going to be in the sequence, but this late pick 5 is an all-stakes pick 5, which is going to be great. You've got Bafferts everywhere. Some of them look like surefire winners. Some of them we may try and beat. So plenty of action to go over on this day. I'm very excited to talk about it. But before we get there, Mike, what's the best thing you saw since, 2 days ago?
Well, it's draft day, baby. So I'm going with the draft. Excited to get this thing going. We've obviously been strategizing internally in the Magic Mike War Room, so we're excited to make that happen. We've got to have a couple trades floating in and out, so we'll see if we actually pull the trigger on something there and make something happen. We know who we want early, and we know who we want late, and the middle rounds are an absolute cluster. Bleep. So, we're going to see how this thing goes. It's going to be interesting. A lot of stabs this year. I bet there won't be an unnamed horse drafted, but there will be multiple unraced horses drafted. And so it's going to be interesting to see how people approach this, just considering how I think all of us think a lot of the stronger 3-year-olds are not debuted yet. So we'll see how this goes, but I'm excited to get it going and to see how high Slim is and how everything else goes on draft day.
I'm really excited to see what happens with it. I'm real curious to see who Jared's going to draft. He perennially is not a great drafter. And to be fair, this league is won and lost at the claiming window. You just give yourself a better head start with the draft. But, is he going to try and draft the next 8 rings? You never know. He's a kind of a sucker for those overhyped Baffert 2-year-olds that don't really take that step forward as a 3-year-old. And then he gets lucky, and sometimes he just falls backwards into American Pharaoh and Justify. So, you never know what you're going to get there.
Battle.
Don't know. I'm still mad. That still hurts all these years later. Before we go, Mike, the late pick 4 sequence at Gulfstream, I think just started, right?
The early pick 4 just started. So
early. Yep.
I played a ticket. I was going to throw it up there. I started out with the 2, 5, 6, 7, 10. But I'll throw up my pick 3 ticket if anyone wants to play along in the back half of my pick 4 here. So you can play the races 3 through 5 at Gulfstream. So I'll update that as you tell us what's the best thing that you saw today for Magic.
Look at you with those segues. Man, I'm going to give it up to Ricky Pasternak. The debut of the Rocket Hour was today. I literally got out of bed and started working, and I was like, oh, okay, well, Ricky's show is about to start. So I'm not playing Gulfstream today, but it was great to listen to him, and I was just curious to see. I know that those debut shows can be a little rough. We have some experience with that, but no, he did a great job. He had Aaron Halterman on as his guest. I think he's going to be rotating people. Different people from the Racing Dudes team, maybe from outside the team. I know he's talking about having some version of a call-in show where if you have questions, maybe he'll pull you into the show yourself, or if you ask questions or comments, and he's definitely good about that. So I thought he did a great job, and it was a great debut show, definitely better than our debut or handful of debuts went. So hats off to him and Aaron, and I'm excited to see where the Rocket Hour goes moving forward.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed watching it. I disagreed with them quite a bit on the back half of the card, so that was interesting too, to be sitting there. And I think they're 3 and 4 deep in race 7, and my top pick is not used by either of them. So you have fun moments like that when you're going through it. But it was interesting to hear them talk about it and kind of talk through it, and kind of see who they were playing and what angles they were looking at. And I liked one of the things that Aaron did and his kind of take on it, where he talked about why he was specifically trying to target certain types of bets in certain races, whether it's win or exacta or trifecta, or how he's kind of playing the race. Because I think that often is overlooked. So it was interesting to hear him talk about why he was playing certain bets and targeting certain races. So I thought that was a cool aspect of it as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show. They had good banter, good discussion, lots of people asking. So that was great. Got a shout out here for Time to Butter. Repping the GVSC. This is my workout sweatshirt, and I just usually, this is how I look normally when I'm not on camera. So I kind of forgot to change, and I was like, screw it. It's Christmas break. Nobody's going to care. Nobody comes here to see how I look anyways. Like if that's why you're coming to this show, there's bigger problems than that. So.
Yeah. And I just threw down the pick 3 there. So Gulfstream Park, race 3, pick 3. What I have left in my pick 4 essentially is 2-5 with 1-2, 7-9-11 with 1-2. That's $20 for $1. Best bet on the card is actually Colonel Tom in race 7. New York horse that I played like a year ago at Saratoga, who's coming back and dropping in. It's the 4-horse race 7 at Gulfstream. So I really like him quite a bit.
Perfect. Well, I'm excited about Santa Anita. The nice thing about this, whenever we do guides for the California races, I handicap, and it's very easy for me to edit because I know most of these horses already, so I don't have to fact check or say, well, did this happen? Did that happen? I got to edit the inside track to the Malibu Stakes wagering guide, which should be available later this afternoon, and handicap for this show at the same time. So Monday night, I was done. I was like, I'm ready to go, and now I just have to sit here and overthink things. And I've changed something, so maybe I overthought it, but let's find out together.
So is this ticket your opinion or Aaron's?
It's ouch. It's mine. Aaron doesn't, and I say ouch for Aaron. Aaron doesn't want to take ownership over.
I love it.
Let's get into it, Mike. Riders up. All right, where is it? I lost it. Oh, there it is. Cool. Nick's here. Nick, I agree. The La Brea, when we get to it, you'll see it. The La Brea, I just was like,
this whole thing is nuts. This whole sequence is crazy.
Oh, boy. All right. 3, 2. All right, kicking things off for the late pick 5 sequence at Santa Anita Park on opening day, Saturday, December 26th. Race 7 on the card. This is the Grade 2 $200,000 San Antonio Stakes. Field of 8 males, 3 and up, going a mile and a 16th on the main track. Favoritism is on number 8, Mucho Gusto at 2-1. The Bob Baffert trainee who last year started 2020 winning the Pegasus World Cup. Went to the Saudi Cup, did not disappoint himself. We haven't seen him since then. He's been training well for this spot. He shows up. Sharp Samurai, the 4 horses, the 5-2 second choice, which surprised me a little bit that he's going to be that short. I will say up front, Mike, I singled Mucho Gusto, but if I wasn't going to single, I would play this exactly the way that you did, so I'll let you take over.
Yeah, it's kind of a classic Mike style race here. I mean, I agree with you. I think Mucho Gusto is the best horse. I think it's interesting that we only see one Baffert in this race. I think it tells you quite a bit about how Bob feels about, how Tough Luck Bob feels about Mucho Gusto in this spot. So I do think Mucho Gusto is a horse you have to include on your ticket, and is my top pick here as well. I had one other horse I thought you had to use, though. Look, I realize Sharp Samurai, mid-court, coming out of some pretty tough races, have run well. Take the 101, could be lone speed. So there's a reason to kind of look at a few horses in here. But to me, the 7-horse Idol is the horse that you have to be using in here as well. This horse is not going to take a ton of money. I don't think so, at least, because if you're looking at a lightly raced, 3-year-old here for the Baltus Barn. I love the fact that this horse has improved in 3 starts. Two of those are wins. And you have Saez, Gabriel Saez, not Luis, coming in to ride this horse from Kentucky. I love the progression in the last 2. Yes, he's been the favorite. Yes, he's supposed to win. But his buyers have consistently stepped up later here in the 3-year-old season. This is a $375,000 son of Curlin, so it's not like this horse doesn't fit from a pedigree perspective or cost perspective. Calvin Wynn's a well-known owner out there on the West Coast, so I like him bringing this horse out here. They didn't ship this horse from Churchill to California for it to run a dud. Saez didn't get on a plane just to ride this horse for it to run a dud. I think this horse is going to be loaded, and I think this is the only horse that really has a good shot at beating Mucho Gusto. The other horses like Midcourt and Sharp Samurai to me are more of those just plotters. They're going to kind of go around in a circle. I don't see how they beat Mucho Gusto. I can see Idol taking a big enough step forward to get in front of him. So to me, this is a pretty easy race to start out the pick 5 sequence. Go 2 deep, play the 7 and the 8.
Yeah, and Mucho Gusto, I'm with you. For me, the question came down to very simply, can you trust, if you had to bet yes or no, on just blindly, on that Bob Baffert would have a horse ready, a grade 1 winning horse ready off of a long layoff. If you just would blindly bet that, yes, Mucho Gusto at his best is better than this field. The last time we saw him, those last 2 races, easily beats this field, no matter what kind of a step Idol takes, unless he takes just a massive, massive improvement. And so for me, it's like it just has to come down to, do I trust Bob Baffert to have this horse ready? Yes. Is this horse at his best better than this field? Yes. So that's why I singled. But Idol, I texted Aaron about this. Idol worries me because none of this makes sense. This is a Baltus horse that never has raced in California, started at Churchill, progressed very nicely, like you said. But his 2 wins, they were both very dominating. Main special weight and allowance company. And now you're going from that up to this to face the Pegasus and the World Cup winner and the Saudi Cup horse. So it's very interesting. I'm not positive that Gabriel Saez is going to ride. And just because I checked, I was like, this is the only time I remember seeing him on the card. He's named also on a fairgrounds horse, Blackberry Wine, on the same day. And I don't think that he's going to be able to make that flight across country. So it'll be curious to see where he shows up. I would guess that he's got, just because he has 1 mount at each track, he's probably going to come here. But it wouldn't affect how I handicap that really that much. But it is interesting that that's what the case is.
Well, if he comes to California, then I think that's even bigger of a sign, because Blackberry Wine's not a bad horse. I mean, Blackberry Wine was on the Derby Trail for a while there. So the fact that that's the horse, if he does come to California and ride Idol, to me, that tells you exactly what he thinks of Idol as well, because this is not his home track. It's not even his home state in that sense. So this is a trip specifically for this horse. So I think that'll tell you quite a bit on race day whether or not this horse is going to fire. But I don't see how you don't use this horse, because I love the price. I mean, you got to be kidding me. Sharp Samurai and Midcourt, no thanks. I don't want any piece of them. So to be able to get 5-1, which on race day may even float up a little bit, I don't think this horse is going to take a ton of money. I think it's a great price and a great way to kind of start this out. I think Mucho Gusto is going to go off close to even money, and you're going to get value on pretty much anyone else. So hopefully we can get Idol home and start this thing out with a nice little pop. This
would be Sharp Samurai's shortest price in his dating back to June of 2019. If he ends up going off at 5-2, it's crazy.
And it's not like it's not like it's illogical. I mean, if you look at a buyer perspective, Mucho Gusto is clearly the best horse, and the next 2 are Midcourt and Sharp Samurai, right? So from just a sheer, I'm going to look at a page and look at this number, the morning line is correct. That's kind of how it should be. But from who did they beat? Where have they run well? How has this gone? Who can improve? It doesn't tell the full story. And one thing I didn't mention about Idol that I think is really important, you always kind of stress about workouts over the Santa Anita track if you haven't run there. His workout, 3 back, bullets, 47, I think was 47 and change for 4 furlongs. Absolutely stellar. And so if you look at that workout specifically, I'll pull it up here just so we have the exact number. It was 5 furlongs. He went 59-4, 1 of 56. And then the 2 workouts after that are clearly just conditioning workouts. They didn't stress the horse as well. So this horse can fire over Santa Anita. And that workout tells me everything I need to know about this horse being ready. I wouldn't be surprised if the 7 beats Mucho Gusto, even if Mucho Gusto is at like 95% off this layoff. I think you could see a huge improvement here. It's a unique spot for this horse to show up.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up that point, because the experience over the track is going to come up later a little bit. But let's get to the reason why I singled here. We're going to look at the next race. Race 8 on the card is the Grade 1 $300,000 La Brea Stakes. You've got a field of 11 3-year-old fillies going 7 furlongs on the main track. And, of course, Tough Luck Bob, he's showing up here. 4 horses of the 11, all coming from the Bob Baffert barn. Favoritism, though, is on the 5 Finite. 5 Finite at 7-2. I almost did my post and odds switch again there. Merneith from Baffert, that's the shortest price. She is at 4-1. Where are you going in here, buddy?
So I watched a lot of replays for this race because I thought it was ultra tough. I thought this was one of the tougher races in the sequence. And one of the replays that I focused on was the race on November 7th from Keeneland. It was on Breeders' Cup Day, and a lot of the horses came out of here, including Merneith, Motivated Seller, and my top pick, the 9-horse Fair Maiden. So I'm going to go to the horse that finished 4th in that race, who was 12-1, and use it on top. If you go back and watch that replay, well, first off, we know that Fair Maiden isn't going to have an issue with the 7 furlongs. I don't see the extra distance being an issue. And there is so much speed signed up for this race that there is a good chance that a lot of the 6 furlong speed falls apart here. So you're going to need someone who's going to come from off the pace and someone who can handle a little bit longer distance. And Fair Maiden checks both those boxes. She ran 4th in that race and was beaten by 2 horses in here. If you go back and watch the race, Fair Maiden breaks poorly and checks badly when she starts to make her move around the turn. She runs right up onto horses, and she's actually just inside of Mernith, who is the 7 horse in that race, who ends up winning the race. That check cost her at least 3 to 4 lengths. That check is the reason why I'm playing this horse back at 12-1. I think Fair Maiden at 12-1 is a monster overlay here. I would take her over the other 2 in that race. I think specifically, and I'm going to be against the 8 Motivated Seller. 6 furlongs was a problem for this horse in that race. I think 7 is going to be an absolute catastrophe, and that's the reason I'm going to be against Motivated Seller here. But I'm going to use Fair Maiden on top. And then my other must-use here is going to be the 5 Finite, who I think makes a ton of sense. Horse is, again, going to be coming from off the pace. Shouldn't have any issue with the 7 furlongs. I wanted both of my must-uses here to be closers, and so that's why I ended up on the 9 Fair Maiden and the 5 Finite as the 2 must-uses for me in La Brea.
I did not use the 9 Fair Maiden.
Watch the replay. If you're using any of the others, watch that replay.
I did, because I am using the others, and I still didn't like Fair Maiden. Yeah. Listen, you brought up a good point, but here's my big concern. Flavien Prat went to Woodbine to ride this horse in the Natalma. Pratt is not on this horse now. He's on a Bob Baffert horse, which is, I think, probably has the second or third best odds of all the Baffert horses. Ricky Gonzalez is a really good speed jockey, but this is going to be a different ballgame from what he usually races in. So I'm not going to use him. I think Fair Maiden, part of my issue, she's kind of nuts. She's a little nuts with how she rides. You can't always trust that she's going to give you a clean trip, which, by the way, is why I'm completely chucking the 11 Stellar Sound. That horse is nuttier than squirrel turds. Not even going to come close to touching her. Finite I did use. I didn't make her my top pick, but I think she needs to be on your tickets when you're playing multis. The 72 price, that sucks. But she's coming from off the pace, like Mike said. Also, she's cutting back from a mile, a one-turn mile in the Chaluki against older horses. I know that was a grade 3, but she beat older horses with plenty more experience than she has. She's cutting back from a mile, and that's going to be important from a fitness perspective because Santa Anita's dirt track is reportedly playing very slow and very deep right now in the morning workouts. These horses that are coming from off the pace, they have to work twice as hard to get up there. And so a horse like Finite, who's cutting back from a mile, should be fitter than a horse like say the Chad Brown horse, Motivated Seller, who's trying to step up from 6 furlongs for the first time. So I think that those are all good reasons to use Finite. I made Mernith my top pick. I don't love it. Mernith has burned me a lot of times. This is a horse that before she debuted, I'd heard was going to be Baffert's Kentucky Oaks horse. And then you see that she got beat at 20 cents on the dollar. And I remember that race. And I remember laughing because I was like, well, there goes that hype train. She's still showing back up to grade 1 race here. She won the Fort Springs, the Keeneland race that we're talking about, where Motivated Seller, Fair Maiden are coming out of. She got up there and won by a neck. I think that the 7 furlongs is going to be fine for her. She's been working plenty over Santa Anita, and she is very fast. And there's a lot of speed in here, but I think she's as fast as anyone. If she needs to, Saya showed in that last race. You can sit off with her and then pounce and try and time the move right. Size isn't here, but John Velasquez is going to be riding. He and Bob Baffert, they do okay when they team up together, especially in 2020. So all that to say, I'm going to use her. 3rd start of the form cycle. I have to make her my top pick. I do not feel good about picking a Baffert horse on top.
Yeah, it's funny. I was going to use Mernith. Now I'm not going to use Mernith. The more I've looked at this and thought about, like, literally this is going to be a spur of the moment. Mernith was my 4th horse in. It's funny. You mentioned Flavien Prat. I'm going to use the 3 horse. That was actually my 3rd pick. Hamiko, I like the progression of this horse. I think that the last 2 races specifically was interesting to see this horse step forward. I could make the argument that maybe Gonzalez picked the 9 over the 3. Probably not. But anyway, because they're just switching, they're flipping around. But right. I like Hamiko here in this spot. I think that this is a horse that didn't need to lead the last 2 races and was able to sit off the pace, stalk, and pounce. 93 Buyer is a great Buyer last out. It's actually the best Buyer of the field in the last out. So I'm interested in the horse in that sense. Ties Finite, but we're using Finite anyway. So I don't think this horse needs the lead. I like the fact this horse keeps improving. I think it's interesting that Pratt shows up here on this horse. And this is a $1 million daughter of American Pharaoh. So this horse was well regarded as well. 7 furlongs shouldn't be any issue. And this horse has won. It ran well over the track. So enough to like there for the 3 for me. And then I was between these 2 horses. I had Mernith on the ticket. I'm going to take Mernith off. So you're going to need to make an edit on my ticket, buddy.
Sure.
And I'm going to throw in the 4 horse Secret Keeper, who actually beat Mernith a couple back. I like the fact that Cedillo is getting back to this horse. I think you took it that last race and you just draw a line through it. You stumbled early in the race. And Secret Keeper was 4-1 against Venetian Harbor and Finite. I think that this horse has the opportunity to run a big race right back. Another horse that doesn't need the lead but has tactical speed, a horse that shouldn't have any problem with the 7 furlongs. We're getting a nice 6-1 price here. So the 5 and the 9 to me are the must-use horses, but I think the 3 and the 4 are really intriguing. So I'm going to end up 4 deep here. I'm going to go 3, 4, 5, 9.
Well, we're going to agree on every horse but Fair Maiden. I love Secret Keeper here. I think that she's really sneaky, and I don't love that it happened to her because I was really excited to see what she'd do in the Raven Run, but I love that happened because we're going to get a better price. I think she's going to float up from 6-1. But if you scratch that race out, you're right, Mike. She just progressed very nicely. Yeah. Cedillo is the only jockey that had ridden her before that race. She didn't handle the ship to Kentucky well. She was very hard to load in the gate that day. She was throwing her head around, and then when the gates popped open, she straight down to her head out of the gate. Yeah, so
it was over.
It was over. By the way, the horse that beat her 2 back got a 97 buyer for winning the Zenyatta and going to the Breeders' Cup. So
there we go.
Yeah, I had to throw that in there. No, I'm with you.
Seiss also very good off this layoff, 30%, 3 for 10 with a $4.40 ROI. So it's not like he won't have horses ready in this spot. Also good at graded stakes. He's only had 5 of them, but he's won 1 for 5 with a $3.92 ROI. So good in this spot from a training perspective, 21% overall. And this is, this horse is going to be ready to fire. Cedillo has ridden this horse the best. The back buyer's fit, has beaten Mernith. So for all those reasons, I'm gonna flip the 4 into the ticket.
Yeah, Seiss also, you remember Into Chocolate, but these 2 horses showed me that Seiss is really sneaky. He'll work them at San Luis Rey and then bring him to Santa Anita and give them 1 trip over the track, and that's when they seem to fire really well. And that's exactly what he did with Secret Keeper. The last horse, because I went 6 deep here. Yeah, I know. The last 2 horses on, I'm not like super excited about, and actually, I'm going to keep her on because it works out. But I'm going to use the 8 Motivated Seller, but this is the last one to make my ticket, simply because it's Chad Brown, Klarovich, and the fact that Chad Brown sent this horse with all the other ones that he's sending. I'm going to use, but I don't love. I'm with you. The distance is a question mark, but this is the 3rd start of her form cycle, so I'm going to use her underneath. Don't love it, but I'm also going to use the 10 Golden Principle. And I know you might yell at me for using 3 out of the 4 Bafferts, and that 4th one is Joel Rosario, so I might really be screwing myself. But I talked about how Santa Anita is playing deep and slow, and horses that are fit are going to have an advantage. This horse is cutting back from a 2-turn mile route at Del Mar, popped into career best 86 buyer for beating Optional Claiming Company. Wasn't a whole lot in that race to be excited about, but she did it very easily. I like that she was able to stalk, and when Mike Smith said go, she went, she took over, and he basically took his foot off the gas and kind of coasted home. So I'm going to use her. Mike Smith, Baffert, this is the same team that won the Malibu with McKinsey a couple of years ago, so I'm going to use her. I'm curious why she didn't make your ticket, because this is a Constitution daughter who seems to be improving.
She needs to take a big step forward, in my mind. She's been beaten by a couple horses in this field. We need to take a big-time step to be able to compete at this level. I'm only using one of the Bafferts. I don't like it when he enters 4 horses. That usually is not a great sign. Like he does it sometimes to fill races when it's like 6-horse fields, and you're like, okay, whatever. But this isn't like Chad Brown where Baffert hits the triple. Usually, when he's got 1 in a race, he wins. And when he's got 4, he's kind of throwing darts. And so I'm going to pick whatever I think is the best placed dart. I also, on the 8, just while we're on the Motivated Seller topic real quick, I think it's awfully interesting that this is the only Klarovich horse Rosario doesn't ride. He's on all the other Klarovich horses, and he's off this one. That, to me, tells you something about this horse. I think that Rosario's more excited about his mount. And so I would be more interested in Provocation, even though I'm not interested in that horse at all, than I would be Motivated Seller.
All right. I'm going to think about this and sit on it. I might end up dropping Motivated Seller because that's a really great point. I love Reese Woolley, but Rosario having that connection with Brown is I'm going to keep my eye on that one. Until then, let's move on to the 3rd leg of the late pick 5 sequence at Santa Anita Park on Saturday, December 26th. Opening day, this is race 9, the grade 1 $300,000 American Oaks. Field of 10 3-year-old fillies going 1.25 miles. They're going to start at the bottom of the downhill turf course. If you want more information about the downhill turf course's status and future, by the way, check out my interview with Chris Merce, who's the racing secretary, director of racing at Santa Anita. He gave some good insight. That's out on the podcast. Shameless plug aside. Favoritism is going to be on the number 9, sharing at 3-1. Another plug, Chris Merce is partially responsible for her winning the Breeders' Cup. You can find that out in the interview as well. The number 5, Luck Money at 7-2. And then Chad Brown, 2 horses. Number 3, Capital Structure. Number 8, Duopoly. They're both 4-1 in here. Where are you going on top?
I'm not going to get wildly creative on top. I think Sharing's the best horse. I think that's kind of your must use here. Horses run very well, done absolutely nothing wrong since getting back from Ascot. Literally improved its buyer every single race, except for its second start, which was a rain off the turf. So I'm not really too worried about that one. Ran a 96 buyer in the Matriarch, ran very, very well against blowout Juliet Foxtrot and your eventual winner there in Vidara, who's a very good brown horse. So I have absolutely no concerns about that loss on November 29th over at Del Mar. I think Sharing takes a step forward here. We're third off the layoff, and any type of step forward is going to be real tough against this field. She ran a 96 buyer in that Del Mar race. If she does take a step forward off of that, she's going to be awfully dangerous. And I don't think the 1.25 miles is going to be an issue for her. I think that's really the biggest concern. She's never gone 1.25 miles before. So the question of can she get the distance is the only question I have. And it's one of the main reasons I am going to end up 4 deep here, because I do think it's at least legitimate enough to ask. And you got 2 good Browns and another sneaky horse for me, but Sharing was my only must use, and Sharing was my top pick in this spot.
I'm with you. And I'm going to tell you a quick funny story. So yesterday, Aaron, this is always makes me feel good, and I'm not just saying it because he's in the background, but whenever Aaron calls and actually wants my opinion on stuff, I'm like, ooh, okay. Oh, sure. And then I get really nervous because I'm like, oh, God, if I screw this up, they're going to fire me. We almost talked each other off of Sharing completely. And then by the end of the conversation, we were both like, no, she's the top play. And the reason is the breeding and the distance question. She's by Speightstown. Speightstown, a lot of speeder, distance, not really known for it. But her damn shared account won the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. So she can handle distance. She went, I think, 1 mile and 3/16, somewhere, something that's basically equivalent to what she's going to be, what Sharing's going to try here. And then remember Charlatan, who we're going to talk about in the next race. Charlatan is by Speightstown, but the dam side brings him a lot of a distance pedigree, and so he's able to handle going 1 mile and 1/8 when most Speightstowns you wouldn't want going 2 turns. So all that to say, I'm with you on Sharing. I took a quick peek at the tickets that you're using. You and I had the same 3 horses. You're going with a 4th one, but we'll get the 2 Chad Brown horses out of the way. I love that Flavian Pratt is on duopoly. His agent wouldn't say before the draw which Chad Brown horse Pratt was going to be on. So the fact that Pratt is on the one that likes to be on the lead and looks like might be a gate to wire candidate if a horse like Going to Vegas doesn't try and go with her. I love that Pratt's going to be the one to try and handle that. Conversely, I love that Joel Rosario is not on the horse that likes to be on the lead, so I can trust that that horse will probably actually go to the front. Capital Structure making her 3rd start, kind of the form cycle. She makes sense here in this spot. It's Brown, it's Rosario, it's Klarovich. Tell me about the 3 and 8 and why you like them.
I mean, pretty much for the same reasons. I thought Duopoly is going to be sitting a very good trip here. I think Going to Vegas is probably going to go to the lead, but I think Duopoly is going to sit right behind. I trust that Pratt's going to put this horse in a good spot. Honestly, Duopoly was the last horse on my ticket in this race, but I didn't want Pratt to beat me here in a spot where it's Pratt and Brown, and the trip is right. I mean, that's the thing. It's you can't really argue that there's a ton of speed in this race, and with the lack of speed, Pratt knows how to really ride those races. I could see this being one of his patented mid backstretch moves, where he takes it to Going to Vegas and kind of gets the jump on the field and tries to take him home from there. Capital Structure is just one of those horses where I like the progression and how this horse is running the 3 races. I'm a little concerned this was his Monmouth string, which we've talked about before on the show. When he debuts horses at Monmouth, it's usually not his A team. But it is Klarovich. It is, and Rosario is getting aboard this horse. Ortiz was riding it when it was at Belmont, so you've had consistently good jockeys on it. I like the last workout where Bullets went 59 change for 5 furlongs. And this is one of those logical improvement horses that could take a big step forward. And if it does take a big step forward here late in the 3-year-old season, I don't want to not have it on the ticket. My second pick, and a horse that I really like in this spot, I considered making it a must-use, is actually Red Lark. I'm going to go back to this well on this horse. I liked this horse when it was 19-1, 2 back. We actually gave it out on one of our live shows in the pick 4 that we hit. And man, Red Lark has run nothing but good races and gets no respect. I mean, the Rodney Dangerfield would be a good deal. If you could do a good impression here, it would be a great spot for the no respect line. That QE2 Cup race 2 last time out is sneaky good. Harvey's Little Goyle came back and ran exceptionally well at the Breeders' Cup. Micheline runs second. And it's not like Red Lark got a great trip there either. That was also over a good turf. I think Red Lark wants it a little more firm. Ran a 92 buyer, which fits with this field for the most part, except for one horse on the outside. And I have absolutely no distance concerns with Red Lark. Red Lark will come running at 1.25 miles. So give me all of those reasons and the 10-1 price. I think you almost have to use Red Lark in this spot if you were not singling Sharing. So Red Lark was my second pick. So I'm going to end up 4 deep here. I'm going to go 1, 3, 8, 9 to continue the pick 5.
You hear that sound, Mike? That's the sound of motivated seller getting kicked off the train. We're adding Red Lark. This is the horse. This horse scares me in this race, and I've told Aaron, I was like, I don't know if she's going to win. I usually don't play her, but the distance, this is the one horse that in this field that I know without a doubt can handle the distance at a top level. And that Kiwi 2 Cup, that's a big reason too. So when you brought up the Kiwi 2 Cup, I was like, God, Mike's thinking the same thing I am about that race. So we're full agreement. All 4 horses here. Thank you. It was, by the way, 10-1 with Drayden. Yeah. You're going to get every bit of that 10-1, and Drayden should not be 10-1.
You're going to get a bigger price, and the trip should be really good here too. I mentioned the lack of speed. This horse does have some, like, yeah, it's going to be flying, but the one draw at 1.25 miles when you're starting on a turn is a really good draw. This horse could be sitting 4th or 5th around the first turn. You're going to have the inside trip both turns, like. This horse could trip out on top of everything else where you have that guaranteed 1.25 mile number. You know this horse can run well at Santa Anita. Ran second to Toinette. That's not bad at all at Santa Anita. If it was facing Laura's Light, to me, Red Lark at 10-1 is like borderline must use. I think Sharing is the best horse, but Red Lark at that price is a steal.
You know what I love is we're getting some. Dennis was the first one to ask before he even mentioned that he liked. Big Teddy 8 is on it. Time to Butter's on the Red Lark trade. Let's go, baby. Let's get that hype train going. Before we move on, I just want to get a couple of horses that your opinion on why neither of us use them. We'll start with the 5 Luck of Money, who I'll be honest surprised me at 7-2. I'm not using, and I like that this horse is 7-2 because I think it's going to spruce up, especially your Red Larks. But I don't think this horse is a bad fit. Has clearly won at 1.5 miles over Belmont. Did well in 1.5/16 at Kentucky Downs, and we've talked before about the Kentucky Downs form. Aaron brought it up on the Rocket Hour again today. So there's concerns that this horse might be coming. I just think this is way too big of a class test for what he's going to be facing. This horse hasn't faced a Sharing yet, and that's why I didn't use.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Micheline and Harvey's Little Goyle. That's who beat this horse at Kentucky Downs. So you could definitely make a class argument there that I just made for the one. Difference is a lack of experience over the track. I'm not sure that there's that much upside from Luck Money. I don't like 7-2. And Santana rides terribly on the turf. So you combine all of that, and I'm not going to play the horse. Santana was literally, if this was Pratt on this horse, I probably would be using the 5. I mean, just to be completely transparent. If I get the best jockey at the meet versus a jockey that can't handle the grass, I would have a very different opinion of how I would play this race. But look, this is another horse that could get a good trip. But the last race was over a yielding turf at 1.5 miles. The course clearly like that. Ran well over a good turf at Keeneland, clearly like that. So I've got questions around firm turfs. And then the other issue for me is like, what clicked? Because the last 3 races are so much better than everything else. And there isn't a specific change that I can look at and say, oh, well, that's the reason. It didn't add blinkers. It didn't add Lasix. And it was 29-1 in that race at Kentucky Downs, and then comes back at even money, essentially in a non-winners of 1 allowance where it should win, right? So for me, I just, like you said, it hasn't faced that class test when it was in that. It was 30-1, and I have no interest at 7-2. I think that's just way too short of a price. And I think this horse takes money on this day, on Saturday. So I'm not overly interested.
I'm with you. That's fine. Also, Neige Blanche, the 10 horse. This is a horse that I really loved in the Del Mar Oaks. I was very high on her, and like all the horses I was high on in that race, it kind of let me down. So thank you for making sure that you picked Red Lark in our winning pick 4 ticket. I think this horse is going to be great going longer against the California group. The fact that Brown brought 2 and that Grand Motion shipped in and Arnie Delacour shipped in, that's what makes me say no to Neige Blanche. I would say watch her, wait on her, and see what she does, and then try and play her, because if she doesn't hit the board, finish in the top 4 here, which is likely, you're going to get a good price on her when she drops down to just face the other California horses.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, if I used a California horse in here, the next one for me would be California Kook. Who ran right behind Red Lark in that race that we discussed and actually beat Red Lark the race prior to that. So for me, if I'm going to use another California horse, it's the 7. But we talk about this all the time. The East Coast turf is better than the West Coast turf. The West Coast sprinting is generally better than the East Coast sprinting, right? So although I will go against that later in the card. So I'm going to look at the East Coast turf here and say I'm going to give them a leg up. And so in that case, I'm going to focus on here the East Coasters, or specifically the 2 Browns and Sharing. And then Red Lark is the best of the rest to me, and the best California horse, proven at the distance and can handle the trip. So that's kind of how I ended up here. I agree with you on the 10 horse that Neige Blanche could take a step forward. I think that down the line, this horse could be good. I'm just not sure that this is the race this horse takes a step forward in. And I don't necessarily want this horse after all of this travel and off the layoff to see if this is the time. Although the 12-1 is spicy. I mean, that makes me a little bit interested. I just don't think this horse goes off at 12-1 on race day. I don't think a Rispoli Matacat horse is going to end up any higher than 6-1.
That's true. We'll move on to the fourth. God, I knew I was going to screw this up at some point. The fourth leg of the late pick 5 sequence is Santa Anita on opening day to Saturday, December 26th. Race 10, the headline of the Grade 1 $300,000 Run Happy Malibu Stakes. Just a field of 6 3-year-olds, but there are 2 Grade 1 winners. There are 2 horses that very well could be Grade 1 winners, one that was and then got it taken away. This is a very star-studded field of gigantic question marks. I have a question mark for literally every horse in here. Favoritism is on the number 3 Nashville at 6-5. Bob Baffert, Tough Luck Charlatan at 9-5. The 4 horses, your second choice. My boy Collusion Illusion, who I bought into, he's on the rail at 8-1 for Flavian Pratt. Where are you going on top?
Collusion Illusion won't even run in the top 4 in this race. I love it. I am going to go with Independence Hall on top. I'm going to go to the outside gate. I'm going to take the 6 horse. There's a lot of speed in here, and this is just going to be Nashville is going to go, and Charlatan is going to go. Both of these horses, none of them are going to try and rate. You're not going to see Smith or Santana try and rate these horses. They are going to fire right from the start, and you are going to see a good old-fashioned pace to head knocking back and forth pace duel. I do not see how they don't go. You're going to see 21 and change. You're going to see 43 and change. And I don't think that Charlatan can keep up with that pace. So I'm not going to use Charlatan at all because of that. I am going to use Nashville because he could be a freak. And Steve Asmussen, while I do take shots at him, is very good at training sprinters, especially ones who want the lead. That is something that he excels at. So we are going to make sure we use Nashville here. But Independence Hall, who was the number 1 pick in the draft last year, who I was high on last year, who debuted at 6.5 and was able to debuted at 7 at Parks and was able to get the job done by 4, ran back at 6.5 and looked very good, running a 95 buyer at Del Mar, could very well be an awesome sprinter. And we just don't know it yet because we talked that this horse might be distance limited last year. It turns out he probably was distance limited last year when he tried all these. And now we're cutting back to 6 furlongs. And it's awfully interesting to me, cutting back to 7 furlongs. It's awfully interesting to me that we're going to get to see him in a Grade 1 off of that race as well. It tells you how high Mike McCarthy is on this horse, and nothing against Michael Trombetta, who trained this horse all last year. But I like McCarthy more than Trombetta, specifically in California. I like the fit with Rosario. The 7 furlongs is a big factor here. If Nashville and Charlatan both to try and get 7 furlongs going 21 and change is going to be tough. And so I think you're going to see Independence Hall absolutely rolling late from a behind the speed and going to get first run on these 2. And I think he's going to run away from him. I love the 4-1 price. I'm scared Nashville's a freak, so I'm going to go too deep. But that's really the only reason I'm going too deep, because I'm scared Nashville's a freak. I do think Independence Hall is the top pick in this race.
Independence Hall is a really great pick. With Rosario getting aboard, I'll let you know, this has been the target for this horse since about June, I think. June or July is when I first heard, because he's been in California with McCarthy since the summer. McCarthy was getting to know this horse, and he waited until that point at Del Mar, gave him 1 prep, not 2, gave him 1 prep for the Malibu. You look at the race, it was an optional claiming race. PR Radio Star, Pyron, they're not household names. However, I will tell you, PR Radio Star at that point was one of the hottest horses at Del Mar. He was great during the summer. He was great there in the fall. So that was a very good horse for course that he defeated there. To do it by 1.5 lengths, Mike Smith didn't really have to use him that much. This has been the target all along for this horse since he came to California. So I'm completely with you. Second off the layoff, if he improves off that 95, he got a 101 as a juvenile. You're telling me he couldn't possibly get back to a triple digit here? I'm also with you. I'm going to use Nashville. Nashville was my top pick just because I'm with you. I think he is a really big freak horse. Asmussen was somebody asked him again, why did you put this horse in the Perryville Stakes where he set the track record for about 5 seconds at Keeneland, when you could have just that time would have won you the Breeders' Cup Sprint? And Asmussen was like, well, we knew that there was still a Grade 1 for him later this year as a 3-year-old, and they wanted to put him against straight 3-year-olds rather than have him try and face older off of just a maiden and an allowance non-winners of 2 lifetimes. So this has been kind of the plan for Asmussen. Well, who are the Dennis? Dennis, I love you. He says he's against Nashville because Asmussen and Cali ? Have you heard of a horse called Matoli? Because Matoli came to California for Asmussen for 1 race, and I think he did pretty good. I think he might have
he did okay
my Saturday. Yeah. So I'm 3 deep in this race.
Ooh.
Until about the time we were about to record, I was going to use Charlatan, which from a value perspective is stupid, right?
Yeah.
A 6 to 5 and a 9 to 5. Why would you use both of them? And for me, it was because it's Baffert, a big day. The same argument I use for Mucho Gusto. I'm like, he's got to, if he gets this horse ready to fire and Baffert can do that, how does he not, his 106 buyer is better than anybody in this field that he got for going a mile at Santa Anita. And then I heard Millie Ball, who's an analyst for XBTV at Santa Anita Park. I heard her talk about Charlatan, how Charlatan was her pick for this race until his last work, and she switched to Nashville. And I was like, Millie Ball knows a hell of a lot more than I do, so I'll go watch it. And I watched the replay of the workout, and I was like, well, let me see what Aaron thinks. And this is why I talked to Aaron and got you a little upset this morning. I said, watch it. He doesn't look good in the stretch. He's a little wacky. And Aaron used some words that I can't really repeat on air, but basically Aaron agreed with me. He ran very green in the stretch. His head was cocked. The rider had the reins in a weird position, and then he didn't want to pass horses. He was coming up on 2 horses that were slower, and the rider had to do this at the wire to get him to gallop out and try and pass horses. He never passed them before the video ended. And this horse, his first 2 starts, has been really wacky in the stretch. You would almost think he's a Tappet. He's not gray, but the way he runs, you'd think he was by Tappet because he's just a little nuts upstairs. So all that to say, I changed my mind on Charlatan, and of course I'm using Collusion Illusion. Why wouldn't I? This is
Jesus. Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. Collusion Illusion.
God.
I dropped Charlatan, and I'm adding Collusion Illusion. Fun fact for you: 7 of the last 9 Malibu winners were exiting Breeders' Cup races. What's Collusion Illusion exiting? He's exiting the Breeders' Cup Sprint, where he had a really shit trip and never really got running.
Does it count as exiting if you haven't finished yet?
That's good. I'll give you that.
I'm just wondering. Because the only collusion here is you betting your own horse. That's pretty much it. And the illusion is him winning because it ain't happening.
Well, listen. When we come back from the holidays, I'm going to introduce myself as Grade 1 winning owner Magic. So just so you know. Yeah,
you're going to be so hungover from the eggnog that you're currently drunk on that I don't know how you're going to I can't. Yeah, I'm going to go 3 deep in my pick 4 here. Also, I'll mention another horse that you haven't mentioned, who is the better Baffert in this spot, and that's 1,000 Words. 1,000 Words has a legit shot at winning this race. He's the 3rd deep for me in the pick 4. I'm only going to go 2 deep in the pick 5 because of the cost. But 1,000 Words cutting back here is a legit threat. When it's broke its maiden, running an 88 buyer at Santa Anita, going 6.5 furlongs, and the last workout is sneaky because he ran a 59-4, which was 2nd out of 50. So you don't have the bullet there on the page, which means people won't pay attention to it. But he ran very well over the Santa Anita track sprinting. The likely thing that happens, and the reason why Collusion Illusion wouldn't be a terrible pick if 1,000 Words weren't in this race and if Independence Hall weren't in this race, if Nashville and Charlatan collapse, the most likely winner is Independence Hall and the second most likely winner is 1,000 Words, who has no problem over the distance and should be able to handle the 7 furlongs, be flying late. My problem with Collusion Illusion is that 1,000 Words is an infinitely better version of Collusion Illusion in this race.
How dare you? No, I'm just kidding. Listen, I looked at 1,000 Words. I'm not entirely convinced he's going to run because this feels like a weird spot for me. For him, who doesn't have sharp early speed, he doesn't have a really strong kick. He just kind of lumbers, and he'll get the job done. And I think he's a great candidate to hit the board. I don't think his running style is good enough to beat Independence Hall or Nashville or, yes, Collusion Illusion. Because I think Collusion Illusion's got the better kick when he needs it. So I think it's an odd spot for him. Honestly, do you think that he runs it in here?
I do 100% because I think Baffert realizes he's got a speed duel up front and he wants the second bullet coming from off the pace. Secondly, I hear what you're saying, but this horse in that debut was 2 lengths off a 21-4 opening quarter. So horse ran 22-1, going 6.5 furlongs, has a 94 Tomlinson early rating and a 104 late versus Collusion's 95.83. So as a better late number and an equal early number. I mean, there's a lot of different arguments that you can make that 1,000 Words just has not been back to sprinting since that debut race, and that everything else fits here. I mean, he's got enough early speed to be within 8 lengths of the lead, and he's got the best. He and I believe in Independence Hall are going to be the ones who are going to be flying late. So I could make a pretty good case for 1,000 Words if I wanted to go crazy on it. I don't love the layoff, which is one of the main reasons I'm not using this horse. Is we're shipping back across the country out of the Preakness, but I think 1,000 Words could run pretty big here. And like I said, I'm going to go 3 deep in my pick 4, and I'm going to end up with 6, 3, and 2.
So my counterpoint to your good points there. Both times that those 2 races, the shared belief in that maiden special weight, he wasn't wearing blinkers. He has been a lot faster when he's not been wearing the blinkers, and he is wearing blinkers in this spot. So just my counter to why those would be a different argument here.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you.
And you're not using him in the pick 5. So really,
No.
we're splitting here. So screw it. Why are we still stuck on this? Let's move on to the 5th and final leg of the late pick 5 sequence at Santa Anita Park on Saturday, December 26th, opening day, race 11. This is the $75,000 Lady of Shamrock Stakes, field of 10 3-year-old fillies going a mile on the turf course. Favoritism is on the California horse, number 9, Warren Showtime at 7-2. You have number 2, Miss Extra at 4-1. Also, Counterparty Risk, the 8 horse for Chad Brown, is also 4-1. Where are you going on top here, buddy?
Well, I'm going to go with the lone speed, or what I believe is going to be the lone speed, and that is the 7 horse Nasty. I kind of went through this race a bunch, and I'm going to end up 4 deep, and I don't love any specific horse here. I don't have a huge opinion. To me, this is one of those spots where you could end up on. To me, I thought 4 horses were pretty equal. I almost included a 5th here. So I'm going to start with Nasty, who I do think is going to be your lone speed. I think Nasty's going to be able to get the lead going a mile here, and I'm just going to hope he can take him gate to wire. You got 3rd off the layoff. We've got a nice 88 buyer, 3 back, where he lost to Warren Showtime, but I think he's going to have an easier trip this time than he did there. Went the opening quarter in 22-2. I think you're going to get something closer to 23 here, and I think you're going to get a much less pressure. And because of that, I think that Nasty's going to be able to at least make a better impression here in this spot. I'm also going to take the 8 horse Counterparty Risk as a must-use right to the outside. Chad Brown horse coming in from Aqueduct. Debuted at Belmont, looked very, very good, breaking its maiden last time out. It's just one of those interesting horses that's showing up here in this late pick 5. We talked about Chad Brown bringing horses out here for the turf, and I thought this one was one that you had to use. I'm a little concerned that you're not going to see the pace in front of it to run into. I'm a little concerned about the mile distance versus the mile and 16th that it won at last time. But I'm not going to let myself get kicked out of this pick 5 in the last leg because I didn't use the Klarovich Rosario Brown horse, who is facing, it's a step up in class, but it's not as big of a step as it looks because that maiden special level can be very tough out in New York.
I'm with you. I love Nasty here. Listen, this is a horse. If you remember the Autumn Miss, I love this horse, and you were on Warren Showtime, who won the race. So I'm not going to make fun of you for not being on Nasty in that spot, but I'm on Nasty here again for the same reason I was on her then. She's very fast. Ricky Gonzalez is a speed jockey. He fits her really well. I told Aaron this. Irad is lucky that he left Del Mar with his life after that race because he strangled. When I tell you that he strangled this horse, I mean she didn't breathe for like 2 minutes because of how badly he strangled her early on. And I know she was a little rank, but she's a speed horse. Why did you not just let her go? So I'm definitely with you. I think that going back now to oops, we lost our thing. Going back now to Ricky Gonzalez is going to be huge. I'm also with you on Counterparty Risk. She was my top pick here. Chad Brown nominated her to the American Oaks, so I think that's going to, the fact that he was considering putting her there and put the other 2, that's why I'm with all 3 of those horses, just between those spots. The Chad Brown was looking to meet with them. She worked with not Duopoly, but the other one that we're using in that race, and they both went 59-3. So you liked that horse for doing 59-3 bullet. This horse was right there in step with her. So I like that she's got that going for her here. I'm trying to figure out why the StreamYard disappeared. The 3rd horse that I used, the final horse I used, is also one that you used. Do you want to talk about it? Do you want to guess? Because I know you went 4 deep here.
I'm guessing that you used the 10 horse.
Oh, you're so close. You're so close.
Well, I used the 9 and the 10, and so I decided to not guess Warren Showtime. I guess I should have just guessed Warren Showtime. So I'll let you talk about Warren
chalk,
Showtime.
Of course.
That's true. Well, you did talk to Aaron this morning, so it makes sense. I'll let you go ahead and talk about Warren Showtime, then I'll talk about the 10.
Boy, Aaron was like the one person on your side, too. That disappeared real fast. Yeah,
Got him to look up.
Here's how I saw this race. Who is the best overall horse? To me, Counterparty Risk. Going to use her. Who's the fastest horse? Nasty. Does she have potential lone speed? Potentially, yes. I'm going to use her. Who's the best California horse that knows this course, that is 5 for 8 in turf miles, is 4 for 5 at Santa Anita? Well, that's Warren Showtime. It's really that simple. I've got the best local horse, the best overall horse, and the best speed horse.
That makes sense. I mean, I do think that Warren Showtime. I do think that Warren Showtime may be the best horse in the race, and that's the reason why the horse made my ticket. And again, like I said, I'm pretty evenly split between these 4 outside horses. The 10 horse Ann Angel, I did make the ticket as well. Is a horse that, look, last time out at Del Mar, it went a mile, an optional 80, first time in the States for Baltus, and this is a horse that Baltus owns, and so it's interesting to see off a 77 buyer, which isn't exactly record breaking. It jumps up into a stakes race here. This horse also didn't break at all. When you go back and you watch that race, the horse didn't break yet. It was up a length at the opening quarter in an opening quarter of 23-4. So the horse ran closer to a 23-2, maybe a 23 flat type opening quarter because it had to rush up to get the lead. It was up by a length, held that length lead throughout the vast majority of the race, and was able to hold everybody off. It also broke from the one post, so it kind of forced to rush after a slow break. So breaking from the 10 post, I think you're going to get more options here for the 10 horse. I think that again, in a race that's lacking speed, having the two horses who I think are the most likely leaders, the 7 and the 10, is a positive thing. I think they'll both be forwardly placed. So if nothing else, I'm going to have the first and second place horses turning for home, which again, something I like to have, especially on a turf course that generally is speed favoring. And I think that getting Cedillo here is a big step forward too. I mean, there's no way Hernandez was leaving Warren Showtime, so I don't really care that you don't get Hernandez. Cedillo is not exactly a downgrade from Hernandez. If anything, it's actually an upgrade. So I'm really interested to see why Baltus, who owns part of this horse, decided to put this horse in this spot. And the fact that there's no speed and the Baltus owning it angle, for me, is enough to include this horse.
I consider her. I didn't end up using, partially because this ticket would have just been astronomically expensive, but second start of the form cycle, second start in the United States, both angles you would expect a European to improve. I don't think that she's going to be much of a pace presence, especially if she breaks slowly again. The biggest concern for me is the post. That outside post 10 going a mile at Santa Anita, that's going to come up awfully quick for her. It's not quite the same as if they're going a mile at Del Mar, but it's not great for her. She's got to wait for 9 horses inside of her to figure out where they're going to go. Cedillo's a great jockey. I'm with you. I think that that's fine. This is literally, it was a cost move, and I just think that the post is going to be ultimately what hurts her, but I'm not going to try and talk you off of her.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. I mean, and Nick is mentioning he thinks 7-2 something or somewhere around there as an off odds. I think I'd be surprised if this horse falls that low. I think you're going to get close to that 8-1 price because of the weak buyer coming out of that race. I am concerned about the post. I am concerned about the buyer. But again, it's the second off the North America angle, which is something that I like with Baltus. He's pretty good off this type of layoff, 19%. So there's enough angles here for me to think this horse is going to take a step forward. And again, the fact that Baltus has multiple horses in this race and he owns part of this one, and if this horse is in the gate, I think the horse has a legit shot. I mean, the Baltus also has the one horse, Applecross, who has got Velasquez on. So Baltus isn't just firing this one bullet. Now, if Baltus scratches the 1, I'm going to like the 10 even more. That to me is going to be an even bigger step up. But we'll see what happens here. Did you look at the 2 Miss Extra at all? Did you end up playing the 2? Because this is the one horse that I was kind of going back and forth on. I thought that would be an interesting one to talk about here.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. I did look at her. The 4-1 price surprised me. That helped me say no to her. But we probably looking at the same reason that she's 3 for 3 going a turf mile, including winning a Group 2 in France this summer. So that's a big one. If you scratch off the Prix de Diane Longines, that was a mile and 5/16. Mile and 8th Del Mar Oaks. It was her first time in the United States. It was also a mile and an 8th. So she's cutting back. That's going to be huge for her. It's a really big class drop to a $75,000 listed stakes from a grade 1. Rispoli's picking up. I looked at it. I liked others better.
I thought it was really interesting that she was trying Lasix in this spot. That she did not have Lasix first time out in the States and then is adding Lasix here. So to me, the 2 horse was the other one that I took a long, hard look at, and I may end up adding on tickets or adding in the pick 4, or if someone scratches here, I may go to the 2, but I want to make sure we at least brought her up. And that the fact that we're adding Lasix is really interesting because a lot of these European horses don't run with Lasix, and then they come to the U.S., they always get it first time out. The fact that she didn't have it first time out, and she had a bullet workout over the Santa Anita Dirt before that, or on November 26th, it makes me kind of wonder how this whole thing went down and when they decided to add Lasix. What did she, were they running her on Lasix with that workout? Like what was what sparked her to switch to having Lasix? Because there has to be a reason. She may have bled in that last race, which would be a logical reason to add Lasix, especially when you see that middle move and then the fading late. So I think there's excuses for the 2, and I don't think 4-1 is that bad of a price. I just couldn't fit her on the ticket, but she would be kind of one of those next horses in for me. Yeah,
and you nailed it right there. I think that just reading into the tea leaves here, I think that she struggled with that a little bit. Maybe she had a slight hemorrhage, and it's not, if it's not egregious, and Lord knows we don't want that, they don't put it in the trip notes, so you're not going to. So yeah, I think the Lasix tells you that maybe she kind of struggled there. Is going to help out. The other horse that I looked at long and hard, and actually be the next one in for me, is the 4 on Mars. This horse was just state bred, was very slowly. Phil D'Amato was bringing her along, like he likes to do with his turf horses. and she was beating State Bred Company. But that last race, when she was at Del Mar against Open Company, again, I know there wasn't world beaters that she took on there, but she looked really good. She did not look like a Calbred facing Open Company in that race. She looked really strong, and Mike Smith knew how to pilot her. He's been aboard for all 3 of her career wins. He's riding here again. She's never finished outside the money once in 9 starts. So she was intriguing to me, but I couldn't fit her in yet, but if there is a scratch, she's probably going to either her or the 10 are going to be the next one in for me.
I would be very wary of her. She loves Santa Anita's turf. 1 win, 2 seconds in a third and 4 tries. Loves the distance, 2 wins out of 4 tries. But I mean, she had a better trip than flying private to Japan in that last race. I mean, it was a 6-horse field. 2 horses in front of her hooked up on a speed duel, ended up going 22-1, 45 and 2 for a mile. She was 12 lengths back, sitting in third. That's how much these 2 horses hooked up in front of her. She got first run and absolutely just flew by them and won easy as essentially an 8-5 favorite. So small field, speed duel in front of her. She sat the perfect trip. She should win that race easy. So to me, that race is a little false on paper because of how well she got everything played out for her in that spot.
That's a good point. You know what's weird to me, and I thought about this a few times with this race. This is a mile turf race at Santa Anita, and we're talking about a potential lone speed. Like that just with 10 horses in, that it doesn't sound like it should fit.
Well, you don't have a single horse. I'm just making sure. You have one. You have 1 horse coming out of a sprint. And that's the 5 horse is the 1 horse who could throw a curveball in this whole thing. Because Moonhill Millie, who has not shown a ton of speed, has been coming out or has run on the turf 6 times, and 5 of those 6 have been going 5.5 furlongs. And she's never been on the lead going 5.5, but the 2 races she's gone longer, she's been closer to the pace. So you could have a little bit of false speed in Moonhill Millie, but luckily Santana's on her, so probably won't matter.
All right, that's going to do it for the what'd you say?
Shots fired.
You took 2 shots at Ricardo. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited we were able to do a pick 5, break it up a little bit, hopefully increase your excitement for Malibu Stakes opening day because we're definitely pumped. If you're watching live or the replay, we got the tickets down below here, so go ahead and take a look. We'll read them out one last time. I have to do a mic. I've got to read it from the screen because I've made so many changes to this thing on the fly. I'm going to get something wrong otherwise. So I am starting out singling Mucho Gusto, the 8, then going 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 1, 3, 8, 9, 1, 3, 6, 789. That is an $81 ticket for 50 cents. It's for me, that's a little. I try to aim for about $100 max for a pick 5, and with as chalky as I kind of went here, I didn't want to get that close. So that's why I did it that way. Mike, your ticket.
So I'm going to go 50-cent pick 5 ticket, 7-8 with 2, 3, 4, 9 with 1, 3, 8, 9 with 3, 6 with 7, 8, 9, 10 for 50 cents. That'll cost $1.28. I generally try and go between 100 to 150. So this is kind of middle road for me. I think the sequence is awfully challenging. So make sure you play within your budget here because it's a tough sequence. If you do want to cheapen it up, I would actually single Independence Hall in my ticket versus singling Mucho Gusto. If you really want to cheap it up, you could probably single both of them. But the spread races, I think, are races where you do have to go a little bit deeper than 1 or 2 to be able to get to the winner in most cases. And
I would say if you've got strong opinions, especially in the turf races on price horses, play them. I think of if there's going to be a race where there's a big bomb of a price, it's going to be one of these turf races. So that would be my advice. If there's a big bomb, do you think it happens more on the turf or on the dirt?
I think the biggest surprise is going to come on the dirt because I do think that Independence Hall or 1,000 Words could win. I think that would be more surprising to people. I think the biggest price is going to come on the turf. I think Red Lark's got a great shot at 10-1 morning to get the job done.
Thank you for convincing me to add her back on. Hopefully, I'm thanking you again.
Yeah.
Next time.
Until Saturday, then you can decide if you want to thank me or not.
Well, hey, Nick Sievers said the guide looks pretty. Love the colors. Thanks for the compliment. That must mean that the Inside Track Wagering Guide to the Malibu Stakes is available now. You can purchase that at racingdudes.com. If you have any of the 30-day subscriptions or higher, it's included with it, and we say that those are the best value. You get your most bang for your buck there. Works out to just a little over $1 a day, plus that you get every guide that we come out with. And with the Kentucky Derby prep season starting up in January and really getting full force, we're going to have a lot more guides for you guys next year. So those 30, 60, 90-day subscriptions are great for you. And hey, if you got the budget, if you like to play the Samo Bombs, we've got the 30, 60, 90-day subscriptions that include the Samo Bombs. So make sure you go to racingdudes.com, click on the handicapping products page, find what works best for you. Mr. Samich, this is going to be our last show before Christmas, before Malibu Day. So I want to wish you and your family happy holidays, warmth, excitement. I know you're staying put in North Carolina, but you at least get to see your parents. So enjoy yourself.
Thank you, man. Yeah, you as well. Happy holidays. I'm the largest 6'3" elf you've ever seen. My wife doesn't like to rap, so I've got the rapping room here. Been rapping for about 3 days straight. It's been interesting with
Oh yeah.
the unique holiday that we've had. We just have boxes showing up randomly from relatives sending stuff to Lily. So we have no clue who it's from. So we just wrap it up, Lily from ? Throw it on there and have some fun. But yeah, no, I was joking with one of my buddies. Rapping, you can either be good and slow or bad and fast, but being bad and slow is the worst possible. And that may not be like my wife's combination. So I get all the rapping duties.
I definitely fall into that second category. I am slow. I wouldn't say I'm great. I would say that my form has steadily improved over the last 10 years, because before I started dating Mrs. Magic, which we're going to be coming on, it's going to be 10 years next month that we've been dating since we started dating. Wow. Yeah. That's crazy. I don't even want to think. That's nuts. That woman's a saint, let me tell you.
I thought I was a saint for getting through 240 episodes here.
You're not to 240 yet, baby. Don't count it.
Okay.
But yeah, so she's really great about it. I've definitely gotten better, but I used to just there were times she claims even as early as last year or as recently as last year that I would just say, well, the box doesn't have any description on it. Did I have to wrap it? Like, you got to open the box, whether it's wrapped or not. And you can guess how that went. But
is tape wrapping? If we just tape it shut, are we good?
My big issue with wrapping now is that if you have to, if you start to do the wrapping process, and then if your other ends, so the sides that you do second, if those are too long, the smart thing is probably to trim those. I just smash it down. I fold it over, smash it, and we're going to make you flat. And it usually adds about a ½ inch to the box size by the time I'm done.
I love it. Yeah, I'm mediocre and fast, and that's a good combination. Good enough that people have fun opening it, but it gets done quickly.
I think that's what Heather said about Aaron recently. Mediocre and fast. We have a quick question. We'll let you guys go, but Time to Butter, you've been great, and you gave me the GVSU shout-out. So any question you want answered, but I got you. He thinks Red Lark will go off at 10-1. Wants to know, Mike, what is a good bet, a good price to win? Did you get it? Nice.
I hope you played that pick 3. We just got an 8-1 home, second leg.
Nicely done. Quick question from Time to Butter. He likes Independence Hall and Red Lark at 4-1 and 10-1, but he's a little concerned that the prices might drop on one or both of them. So this is something I do with football. What's the lowest price that you would take to bet either of those horses to win?
To win, I would say Independence Hall would be 3-1, somewhere in that range. I think that if you like Independence Hall to win and you don't like the price, a great way to play him is play a exacta 6 straight over the 2-3. So play him over 1,000 words and over Nashville, because I think Nashville's 3. Yeah. So I think Nashville is the other horse. I think one of those two horses runs second to him, and you're going to get better than that 3-1 number. You'd need to demand at least $6 back on the exacta in that sense, but you'll get at least 6 back if he wins and one of those horses runs second, and your upside for the 2-horse 1,000 words running second is exponential versus the win bet or the exacta bet. So if I'm not getting 3-1 in Independence Hall, I think playing the 6 over the 2-3 is a good strategy there. Red Lark, I think the 10-1 is going to happen. I think you might get more than 10-1, to be honest with you. But I would probably not bet to win under 8-1, but I would be playing win place or win place show at 12-1 or better. Because I do think you're going to see some value in even place or show bets with horses that are 12-1. Other interesting thing about like a 10-1 Red Lark, a nice way to play it might be, a $1 trifecta key box where you play the 1 with 3 horses. And so then the 1 has to finish in the top 3, and then 2 of the other 3 have to finish there in that top 3. And that can create value. As long as that horse is 10-1 or better, you're able to create some value in the trifecta, and you can spread with favorites and another price, and you can get a good triple home.
Perfect. Thank you for asking a question. Thanks for the response. I was trying to figure out, I was like, Red Lark, 7-1, 8-1. What's my basement? And right when I landed on 8-1 is when you said it. So that's a good one. Listen, thank you again to everybody for making this a really great year. I'm not sure yet. Mike and I'll talk later if we're going to show up for the if we'll come back on Monday or what our schedule is going to look like. So with the holidays, just bear with us. We'll figure something out. We'll see you guys again real soon, because later tonight at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, the Racing Dudes Triple Crown Fantasy League Draft is happening. We're doing a live stream, so you guys get to see exactly how crazy everything goes. No word on if Jared is joining. Nobody's heard from Jared since the last blinkers off when he was gifted some rather nice items for his birthday. So Will he show up? I don't know. Will something crazy happen? Who knows? Will there be?
Will his
any kind
camera
of
be a
wacky-
clear picture? No one knows.
All that and more. Time to butter. I'll leave you with this. Good luck. He says the casinos are finally open again in Michigan, so he's going to Northville Downs after the show. In the words of my good friend, the famous Wesley Snipes, always bet on black. Until next time, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Good luck this week.
Let's go.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.